772. Now, I know we've heard a lot of testimony today already about illegal immigration in general and the different effects of that. So I'm going to cut right to what this bill does so you can understand two things. Number one, you can understand the differences between the bill that we last heard. And number two, more importantly, you can understand what the bill actually does. Now, I know it's surprising to some, but the media has not been honest about what this bill actually does. Now, it's shocking to some. For some like me, it's not shocking one bit. So I'm going to talk about briefly what this bill does, and I'd like to open it up to questions, most particularly Senator Washington, because I think there's a lot that can be ironed out about what the law currently is and what laws we can and cannot change. So, Senate Bill 72. In short, this bill seeks to create an ICE program at the state level. That's essentially all it does. This is an ICE program inside the state of Missouri. Okay, so much like ICE, we will have the Department of Public Safety conduct investigations. Much like ICE, there will be a tip line that the Department of Public Safety can use to initiate investigations. Much like ICE, we have to actually do an effective investigation and have enough probable cause to initiate a warrant for someone's arrest before they can be tracked and arrested, just like ICE with a detainer warrant. Just like ICE, once a warrant is issued for an illegal immigrant's arrest, then and only then can a police officer or a licensed bounty hunter effectuate that arrest. So we've heard a lot of things. Oh, we don't want bounty hunters going around kicking in doors, demanding UC papers. That is 100% illegal now. It is 100% illegal in my bill when it passes. It is 100% illegal per constitutional law. You cannot do that. You cannot walk up to a person today on American soil and say, show me your papers. You can't do it. Police can't do it. As a matter of fact, federal agents can't do it without a detainer warrant. Okay? Those are what are called warrantless arrests. It is not allowed per constitutional law, which means we cannot change it here, nor can the federal government change it. These are all falsehoods that the liberal media puts out. So that is what this essentially does. There are also, what are also illegal per constitutional law that this bill does not do is what are called reasonable suspicious detentions. So you can't just see someone that you think is suspicious, walk up to them and say, you know, what's going on? What's your status? Are you legal? Are you illegal? That's not allowed. Also not allowed by a citizen, not allowed by a bounty hunter, not allowed by even a police officer or a federal agent today. Again, all falsehoods. So I'd like to open up for any questions. I know there are several, and I'm super excited to help you understand what the actual current of the law, status of the law is.
All right. One question. You have maybe a substitute. So did you cover that? I'm sorry, I didn't.
I did not cover that. I have had it distributed. Everyone should have had it. If you have substitute 06C in front of you. Essentially,
we'll make sure everybody gets it. But I don't know if you want to cover high-level stuff.
Yeah.
And people can come talk to you and ask questions about what those changes may be.
So the substitute combines the two different bills. We were going to initially bifurcate the two bills. They're ideas that I ran on back since last summer, ideas that a lot of constituents of mine supported. And so we were going to bifurcate them to make sure that we really could thoroughly vet both. But since the mass misunderstanding of what this actually does and its intent, I have decided to roll it into one sub and cover it all as one standing bill inside Senate Bill 72. So you will see that substitute in front of you. It is marked 06C.
Great. Any questions for the sponsor? Senator Weber, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator, sorry, I came in right towards the end of your comments, so I apologize if I missed.
It's okay.
If a person is unjustly, I don't know what the right word is, if somebody tries to call him a tip and says, I think my neighbor is undocumented and there's an investigation, that person was not undocumented, do they have any kind of recourse for their troubles? Or?
Yes. So currently, today, we have hotlines. We have hotlines all across the country. We have hotlines, tons of them, hundreds, if not thousands, right here in Missouri, and currently is against the law to harass or give false reports to hotlines. That is already the law. And you will see that in my sub 06C. I have it on page, bear with me, page 5, about midway down, subsection F, you will see that I put this in the sub. It was not in the original. Nothing in this section shall be construed to prohibit the commencement of a criminal action under section 575080, which is the harassment statute. So what I did is just clarified, because again, some folks, genuine folks, seem confused about what this law does and what other laws are in place. And I don't have to explain that to senators here. We don't write bills and include every current law on point in our bills. Of course we don't do that. That's redundant. All we do is talk about the changes we're bringing. We do not repeat every current law on point. So what I've looked to do is repeat some of those more concerning laws, just as an effort to help explain what it's actually doing, and that is one of them.
So I understand that it would not neutralize any of the harassment statutes, but in terms of like the actual individual getting actual recourse for their inconvenience, for their harassment, even if it's a well-intentioned call, is there any provision currently for them to get? I mean, it feels like if somebody gets, somebody calls a hotline and turns their name in, and all of a sudden they have to deal with all this stuff, and it's all completely incorrect, that there should be some sort of recourse for that individual.
Well, a couple things. Fair question. I'm glad you brought that up. Number one, most of the time under these investigations, they don't even know they're being investigated. Right? Because again, a policeman per federal constitutional law cannot walk up and say, "Excuse me, Senator, are you documented? Can I see your documents?" It's not allowed. Okay? That's not what ICE is doing right now either. And that's another falsehood. So they wouldn't even know, 99% chance they wouldn't even know they're being reported. But I still do believe, even though they don't know they're being harassed, that they are still in fact being harassed. And I want to make sure if somebody's doing that, that they are indicted for the crime that they're committing.
Okay. And then the second question, I saw briefly, and you may have addressed this, but I think the fiscal note was like $4.5 million. What was the cost?
I just got the note today, and I believe the cost, they were projecting 13 new FTE. 40. So they're projecting 40 FTE, and I'm not sure why, right? So the Department of Public Safety has the authority to promulgate these rules within the statute, and I'm guessing that is saying that they're going to want peace officers, more peace officers to do this. Now, under the statute, you can deploy a bounty hunter for the effect of that arrest, just like we do U.S. citizens, right? Under a surety bond, we deploy them to effectuate arrests of U.S. citizens that are due in court every day. Under this, we would have a new program set up to train those bounty hunters only for the effection of a warrant arrest. And so I can't tell if these 40 FTE are for peace officers, only meaning police officers, or if it's a combination thereof. I'm not sure.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, I've been waiting.
Senator Washington, do you have questions for the sponsor?
Yeah,
Proceed.
thank you. I didn't hear all of your testimony, but I do have a few questions.
Yes, ma'am.
And he knows I'm going to get emotional with him because we've been together for a long time.
We're friends.
So, you mentioned this is going to be similar to what law enforcement already has with respect to bounty hunters. Can you please state for me what U.S. statute or Missouri statute allows a regular citizen to order a bounty hunter?
It doesn't. This doesn't either.
This allows citizens to get to be involved into the criminal justice system.
No. This allows surety bail bonds to apply to become a bounty hunter, which is a heightened licensed program. Now, can any citizen apply to become a police officer or a bail bondsman? Yes. Only after they are licensed as a bail bondsman, they can apply for and become additionally trained and licensed as a bounty hunter.
Who gets the $1,000?
$1,000 is a hotline. That's another falsehood by the media. No surprise. There is a far cry of a difference. No. See, now, Senator, we're going to talk lawyer to lawyer. There's a big difference between a bounty and a reward. You know the difference.
No. We're going to be lawyers. Let's be lawyers.
Let's do it.
That question had nothing to do with bounty hunters. The question is specifically who gets the $1,000.
It's a reward for a tip line, not the bounty hunters.
I didn't say nothing about the bounty hunter.
Okay.
I'm a litigator just like you.
Okay.
I know how to play with the words just like you.
Well, I'm not playing with words.
So
I'm speaking truth in
you
the
are
bill.
do you not think that if someone's going to get $1,000 for turning somebody in, that is not going to cause issues in our communities?
We already have an ICE tip line. They get way more than $1,000.
Okay, this is why
This
we
is
need,
a fraction
what's
of what
that they
is
wanna-
currently
you
in
wanna
existence.
end DEI, you want to end CRT. This is why Black history is American history. Do you understand where the bounty hunters came from? Do you understand that, Senator? Do
If
you
you
know where
don't-
that concept came from?
If you don't like our bail bondsman
So
system,
it's a question. Do you understand where the bounty hunter concept came from?
I know that it's present in all 50 states.
So it's
right
a yes
now.
or no. Do you or do you not?
I know that much,
Okay. Have you heard of Harriet Tubman,
of course.
Frederick Douglass,
Okay.
Nat Turner?
Okay.
Hell, slavery. The bounty hunter concept was to give rewards. That's exactly what this bill is doing. I want you to understand
It's
that.
not what the bill is doing.
Let me talk, because as far as I know from your skin color, I don't think you descend from no slaves. And unlike most of the black people in this building, I don't go back a whole bunch of generations. I go back to my great grandfather. I just go back two. Okay? Bounty hunters were put in place to bring black slaves to their masters.
So why have
Thank you, Mexico, for not giving them up. Excuse me?
Have you filed a bill to eliminate our current bail bondsman system?
It's not about. I don't have a problem with the bail bondsman system. I'm a criminal I'm a criminal defense attorney. I want them in there. But
okay.
but our criminal justice system does not give $1,000 for somebody just saying, oh, that person is possibly illegal.
We give the current.
We have
ICE
reward
tip
systems,
reward-
but the
yes.
bounty hunter has nothing to do with that, and that is for after someone committed a crime.
No, that is someone who skipped court.
No, that's
Yes.
illegal now. We can't do that anymore.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a surety. It's a surety is a different system. Which
We
is
can't
why I
issue a warrant
established
for
new-
certain. We can't issue a warrant for certain ones.
There's already a bench warrant because they didn't appear in court. Yes,
It
there's a
depends on what
warrant.
kind of court it is, Senator.
No, it's
Yes,
a
it does.
surety.
If I
That's how surety
I just
bondsmen
filed a
work.
motion right now because I have a client who got a warrant from Springfield today for a traffic ticket. It is against Missouri law now to do that. We
Yes,
passed a
because
law
they-
that went into effect in August. So if you're not a criminal defense attorney, because you know I'm gonna light you up on that, stick with them big personal injury cases that you make all that money.
Senator, when you're ready to talk about it, we can talk about the law.
This
Bench warrants for traffics.
There is no.
cases
You
within
cannot
municipal
do that
courts.
anymore.
You cannot.
You
Correct.
cannot do that anymore.
Municipal courts. We still have surety bail bondsmen 100%.
For non-traffic offenses.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Non-traffic.
Okay. So I
Correct.
was right. Right.
Okay.
Why do you think we need this? Because when I wash my hair, somebody's gonna think I'm from another country, and somebody may send out try to get $1,000 for me and my daughter. My sister, who is very, 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 very light skinned, but she has dreadlocks now, so she looks like she is North African. They could call on her. Why do we need to give somebody $1,000 to say that I think I have an undocumented immigrant next door?
So, Senator, it's already in existence. Is that happening to you today?
It's already is what happened to me. Getting stopped because somebody.
Tips?
I got stopped last week and I was told to get my birth certificate because they didn't
someone
think I was
called you-
American.
Someone called you into the federal ICE program?
No,
for
I
a
got
reward?
stopped on the highway.
Okay, so you have no evidence of ever being reported to a tip line for being illegal. Is that right?
No, but I got stopped for it.
Wow. So all of a sudden it's going to start happening. We have this program already that rewards you a lot more than $1,000 at the federal level. Why is it going to start at the state level for a much
How much
lesser
they get at
reward?
the federal level? Maybe
It's
y'all do something different in St.
undisclosed.
Louis County, but
It's
we don't do that in Kansas
billions
City.
Since the 2003 George Bush Act.
But
And then,
we
of
have
course,
never
President
given an
Obama,
award in
he
Kansas City. Y'all doing
deported
something
more
different?
illegal immigrants than any president in the history
That ain't got
of
nothing
America.
to do with giving a regular
under the
person
ICE
$1,000
reward
for
system.
calling.
Billions. They spend billions on the reward system. Billions with a B.
Well, they didn't do that in Missouri. Can you get me the Missouri
They can do it
numbers?
across
Get
the
me
whole
the
country.
Missouri numbers. I am so sick of folks coming in here and telling me about what's going on here, there, and everywhere, and not talking about the issues we have in our own state.
Well-
Because we spending time on this why black and brown and white women is dying because they can't have babies because we ain't providing the right resources. We got 200-some thousand babies that can't get their Medicaid, but we spending time on we gonna give somebody $1,000 so they can turn in Susie Margarita, and I'm not trying to be offensive, so I hope no one takes that the wrong way. Which is gonna cause more problems. Let me ask you this: how many Mexicans you got in your district?
I don't know. I don't know the demographics of my district.
Excuse me?
I don't know the percent demographics of my district. We have all kinds of different demographics.
You don't know the demographics of your district, so who are you here speaking for?
I'm here speaking on behalf of my district and the state of Missouri. We need this badly. Over the amount of terrorists on the terrorist watch list.
Do we have terrorists in Missouri on the terrorist watch?
That have been caught at the border.
Do we have them here in Missouri? Get me the list.
Terrorism
Get me
is
the
a
list.
national
Get
problem.
me the list of the terrorists in
terrorist act
Missouri.
has affected
In
every
Missouri.
state.
In Missouri.
Every
In
terrorist
Missouri. In Missouri.
Okay. Every terrorist attack has affected the entire country.
How did it
our
affect
economy.
Missouri?
It affects our safety. It affects the way we fly.
How?
It affects the way we work. It
What?
affects the way we enter buildings. It affects the entire country.
Have you been to the White House since
Literally, the director of
2020?
the FBI.
Have you been to the White House since 2021?
The director.
Would
of the
you
FBI
consider January
said,
6
quote,
people terrorists?
Every border is a.
Because now I have
every
to
state-
enter the White House a different way today than I did in 2020.
Senators, if we can have a debate that we're hearing each other at least a little bit, giving each other a chance to talk. So we
He
can hear
cute, so he
debate.
think he can just use
Senator,
that.
I can't speak to that, but it'd be great if we can all just let each other speak. We would appreciate it. Have a little bit of decorum. Appreciate it from both of you. I've let the committee.
You're
go.
right. You're right.
I've
You're
let
right,
the
Chair.
committee go a lot, and that we need to have a fair and free debate.
You're right.
We need to hear each other.
Okay, let me ask him another question. What's the penalty for the bail person or the bounty hunter that picks up the wrong person? And what type of cause of action? Because that's what you deal in is torts.
Yeah.
What type of tort is in here so I can be recompensated?
It's the same. It's going to be held to the same standard as effectuating any
Can
other
you point that
warrant
out in
for
your bill
arrest.
where I can get paid for someone picking me up incorrectly?
Well, Senator, as I said before you got here, to be fair, we can't put every current law on the books that affects this law in our bill. You know that.
Then if we can't, how do we follow it? We lawyers. If I ain't got a statute and if there's no statute, then the judge can't interpret it. So why can't you put everything in here?
Well, Senator, again, there are certain liabilities for police officers to execute warrants. Okay, there
But this ain't a police officer.
It's going to be under the same exact set of rules anytime you effect a warrant for arrest. It's the same laws, no matter who
But that's
does
not
it.
what it is today.
That is what
no,
it
it is
is
not
today.
because they do not. A bail bondsman, Senator, respectfully, does not have the same qualified immunity as a police officer.
That's right, because it's a surety. This is not a surety. There's a big difference. That's why I'm heightening the training. There's plenty of
Yes.
similarities and transferable skills, but this is executing a warrant for the first time.
It doesn't matter whether it's a surety or not.
Yes, it does.
Yes, sir.
A surety, you
Sir.
waive constitutional rights.
Sir.
Illegal immigrants are not waiving any constitutional rights.
Respectfully,
Senator.
if the bounty hunter, if I miss court and he posted a bond, and he comes to me and he goes to the wrong place, he does not enjoy any of the immunities that the police officer has if he goes to the wrong place. I don't know if you have never practiced it, but I can guarantee you're going to ask any bondsman and they will tell you, we try to make sure we check that because and I will bring you the numbers of those who have gone out of business because they had to pay because they went to the wrong place.
Yes.
So they should not, are they going through the same training as the police officers?
They're going through heightened training, not the entire
How long
6-month academy.
They're not,
No.
but you want to give them the same rights?
Just effectuating an arrest, not the same rights as a policeman, no.
Well, what else do policemen do?
Well, they do all kinds of
Well, tell
traffic
us.
stops. They do, our policemen do domestics.
If
Our
I-
policemen do a lot more than just effectuate an arrest from a bench. A lot more. Our police officers do a lot more.
With respect to warrants, what else do police do?
Well, I certainly hope they affect arrests. But yes, About the same. To effect an arrest, they'll do about the same. And then according to the bill, under the bill, the bounty hunters are only allowed to execute on the warrant, and they're given the information they need from the Department of Public Safety, which is all peace officers.
And how much is this going to cost our state?
They say $5 million. I would argue less.
Where are you getting your numbers from?
I'm getting my numbers from the fact that I don't think we need that many additional peace officers and overhead, but
But you don't even have the statistics on how many terrorists we have in Missouri. So
we
how
have
do you know
statistics
exactly?
of 77,000 illegal immigrants is the
Here in
statistics
Missouri?
that we have here in Missouri.
And so that they should all be subject to this, because you're saying that we should arrest them just because they're here?
Yes, and then
Where are
as
your
you can
parents
see in my
from?
bill,
Where are
as
your
you-
parents from?
as you can see in the bill, once the arrest is effected, the very first hearing, if ICE does not want to pick them up, the very first hearing, it's determined if they are considered dangerous. If they're not, they're released.
Yeah, they're released to go back to their country. Whenever ICE picks them up, all of them
They're
go back.
released from custody
They
because
all go
ICE doesn't
back.
want them. That's right.
Again, I'm a criminal defense attorney, so I know that they all go back. So can
They
I
don't
ask,
all go
what,
back.
what is your,
Senator, let's talk
what's
about
your
the police
history?
officer that in the city of St. Louis that was killed a few months ago. You want to talk about that?
I don't know nothing about that. Let's talk about the black person that got shot in his back by the police officer in Kansas City, or the 17-year-old girl who was 8.5 months old and got thrown down on the ground, or the bounty hunter who went to the wrong house and killed the grandma and the little 9-month-old baby. We want to talk about that?
Okay, well, I'd like to talk about the illegal immigrant that killed a police officer a few months ago, right here in the city of St. Louis. Right, because he was in jail for a serious
But he do that only because he was an
domestic
illegal
assault.
immigrant?
They released him, and he went on to kill a policeman.
So
They
you said
don't
he was
just get
arrested
deported.
and then he was released.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with him being an illegal immigrant, Senator. Respectfully, that's
No,
something wrong with y'all
But
police.
under my bill, he wouldn't have been released
How do you know?
because it was very clear he was dangerous.
So how is this going to change? Because it's the police that released him, right? It's the police that released him.
No, it was a judge, and a judge would make that determination here.
And
but
the
this
judge will still be
provides-
able to make that determination, because the one thing they have in their courtroom is what, Senator?
Well, they have discretion.
Exactly.
Not complete discretion. That's why.
Oh,
we
no,
as
they do. Within the statutes and the laws,
the
they do.
statute's very good.
Yeah.
We're changing a statute right here.
No, we're not changing this statute, bro.
Oh, we're changing this.
No.
thing's passing.
So let me
It's
ask you,
passing.
where your people from?
My people.
Where your mom and daddy from?
Chesterfield. Oh, St. Louis.
Where your grandparents from? Because you know you got a little darkness, so there's no way that you are Native American.
Yeah.
And if you're not, then you too come from immigrant families.
Immigrants are good. Legal immigration, good. Illegal immigration, bad. Big difference.
So should I go back?
Big difference.
So should I go back?
Illegal
Should I
immigration
go
is-
back? Should I go back?
Are you illegal?
My great grandpa was,
Well, okay, so he was.
because we're black. So we were all illegal.
No.
I am a descendant of a. Do you not know your Constitution? Do I need to bring my phone down
Illegal.
here?
Senator.
Sir, my grandfather, my great grandparents were not citizens of this United States.
But you are. So you asked, should you go back?
So
My
you're
answer
gonna
is
send the mama
no.
back that has some babies?
Say that
You gonna
again.
send her back? Because she's here illegally, but her babies was born here.
Right now, the law is that they are legal. They are citizens.
And how are we gonna check to see who's legal and who's not?
Well, that's exactly part of the investigation, and that's why this framework arranges for cooperation with ICE. But if you don't have probable cause for a warrant to prove they're illegal, you're not getting it. You're not getting an arrest.
Your bill
You're not allowed
doesn't say
to
that
walk
they
up
have to
them.
have probable cause, though.
Yes, you have to get a warrant, which means probable cause. Yes.
Well, I don't know how many counties you've practiced in, but that's not always the case.
It's always the case.
Absolutely not.
Okay. All right.
It's not always the case. And probable cause is what is it? What's that word you use? That D word?
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Discretion.
Discretion. Yes, of course.
Is that not right?
That's right. Yes.
Okay.
Judges have to decide at their discretion if there is probable cause. Of course. Yes.
Thank
if
you.
you don't like the way our judicial system works, let's make
I love
other
the way our
changes.
judicial
Well,
system
apparently
works.
you
I don't know. I
Apparently you
don't
don't.
like that I'm gonna go arrest somebody because they look like they might be from somewhere else because the neighbor told me to.
Well, that's not what's happening here.
But that's what you want.
No, it's not what I want. That's why I wrote it this way.
Go get me your 23andMe so we can have that discussion. Thank you.
All right.
Further questions for the sponsor? Seeing none. I'm going to lay a couple ground rules. We have already had a hearing on Senate Bill 58. A lot of you have already testified in that hearing. Some of you testified against 58 and against 72. So if you've already done that, we have your testimony. We have you on record. You don't need to come up here and say you're against it again. We also need to ensure that we're not saying the same thing over and over again. So if you can kind of keep your comments unique to your story or to the points you want to make, that would be super helpful, because we also have another hearing after this that's also going to be contentious. So if you could keep it to that, that'd be great. And we're gonna do 1 minute testimony for and against. We'll go back and forth, and we'll start with those that are for Senate Bill 72. If you're in favor of Senate Bill 72, come on up. Please make sure you fill out a witness form, and we have 1 minute for testimony for everybody that's going to testify in favor or against the bill. Senator Washington.
Can I ask the sponsor one more quick question?
Quickly. Very
Okay.
quickly.
I'll answer quickly.
Senator, if I came over here as a refugee and I don't yet have my status, they just brought me here, I'm going through the resettlement, do I get arrested under this?
You're not supposed to, and if you do, you have a defense.
So
This is
while I'm-
any defendant seeking asylum under 8 USC Section 1158. Absolutely.
But I'm being but I'm in ICE. I'm in custody. Have you ever been in custody, Senator?
You wouldn't if you are truly seeking asylum. Let's talk about that for one quick second. You're coming through the port of entry, right? Now, the problem, of course, is we've got people sneaking through the mountains with backpacks of stuff, and they're seeking asylum too, which is nuts. Walk down the paved road, come through the port of entry the way our law says to, register yourself, and there's no way you're going to get arrested because you're registered.
I'm sorry.
Registered.
I promise 30 seconds. You said there's no way.
There's no way.
ICE just arrested American black people that had been in Jersey. They just arrested, and they're still in custody today. They was arrested last week. They have some Puerto Ricans arrested. A Native American was arrested, and they are still in custody. And while you probably have never been in custody, and I get that, but just the custody is going to mess those people up for the rest of their life, especially if they are refugees. My refugees don't come over here and automatically have their paperwork. And so under this, if someone said, hey, the Somali down there, it's time, go, he ain't got his paperwork yet, then he gets arrested. Mind you, he's been living in a refugee camp for 7 years, and now he's over here and you're causing more stress. So don't tell me that it's not going to happen when it's happening right now.
Okay. Well, Senator, that's the
Thank
beauty
you.
of this bill. They are protected under this bill.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. My name is Rabbi Zev Smason. I serve as chairman of the Coalition for Jewish Values of Missouri and the Midwest Regional Vice President of the CJV, representing 2,500 Orthodox rabbis and tens of thousands of Jews, both throughout this country as well as in the state of Missouri. And I'm here today to express my strong support for Senate Bill 72. As a rabbi and as a fourth-generation American, I believe that the principles of justice, law, and order are foundational to a thriving society. And let me share very briefly 4 reasons why I believe that this bill aligns with our moral values. Number 1, the sanctity of the law. Deuteronomy 16:20 says we are commanded to pursue justice, and it mentions the pursuit of justice twice in that passage. Number 2, economic and social strain. Illegal immigration strains public resources such as health care, education, and social services, the costs of which are borne by law-abiding citizens. 3, job market concerns. Illegal immigration increases competition for jobs and puts downward pressure on wages for low-income citizens. And 4th and finally, security concerns. It exacerbates illegal immigration does, allowing illegal immigrants to remain here. It exacerbates security risks, including the trafficking of drugs and violence linked to criminal organizations. And if one might say that a passage in Leviticus in chapter 19 says, love the stranger as yourself, that word in Hebrew means one who fully adheres to the laws and to the customs of the land.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for the sponsor? Senator Washington, go ahead.
Really quick. So you're in support of the bill, sir?
I'm sorry, ma'am?
Did you say you were in support of the bill?
I am support.
Okay, and I think I heard you mention that the illegal immigrants drain our economic resources or something of that nature?
Yes.
How much did they pay in taxes last year?
I don't know.
If I told you they paid $96 billion, would that seem like something that drains our economic resources?
I would say that that would need to be compared to what it is that the citizens of the United States of America are paying to be able to support them in the various ways.
If I told you that
$96 billion here versus how much is being spent by tax citizens, and then I'd be
tax citizens to do what?
I'm sorry?
So how
So
much is being
96
spent
so
by
if-
tax citizens to do what? To take care of them?
They pay $96 billion. How much money are Americans paying to be able to support them through health services and various other ways in which they're supported by Americans?
How much do they get in Social Security once they retire?
I don't know.
Nothing. How much Medicaid can they have?
I don't know.
Nothing. How much Medicare can they have?
I don't know.
Nothing. So if they are having health care, as you mentioned, that means that they're paying for insurance. So they're not draining us. If they're in school, as in the state of Missouri, our education for K through 12 is predominantly over 70% paid for by our property taxes. I don't know where you live, but on my block, I have 9 Mexicans who all own their homes and pay their taxes. So their kids should be able to go to school on their taxes, because that really is the only benefit they get from paying the taxes that they pay. And what's odd to me is you talked about them being a burden to us, right? Now you are, I would presume, a Jewish man.
I am.
So you have a different belief of Jesus than I do as a Christian, correct?
Correct.
But you all believe in Jesus. You just don't believe he was the Son of God or whatever, right? Is that correct?
We have a different belief.
Okay. So we as Christians, we believe in Jesus and we supposed to be following his teachings and all that. But he himself was an immigrant that took some resources from a place that he wasn't from. Is that your understanding?
I'm not versed in Christian theology to be able to answer your question.
Okay. But I want you to explain to me where they're taking resources with some stats.
I don't have statistics.
And who is your source?
The various things that I've read, the sources that I've looked at, I didn't come.
Or any of those government sources?
Given that I knew that I only had two minutes, which I thought originally I had 2 minutes.
You have 2 minutes to talk. I have more minutes to question.
Okay. I did not come prepared with statistics, given
Okay.
that I knew that I was prepared to.
And so
have
the
2 minutes.
information that you have are those from any government entities?
From various websites, including government entities.
Which ones?
The ICE website.
And the ICE website says that the America is losing this much money because of illegal immigrants?
Various sources that I've seen confirm that there is a substantial economic burden on American citizens because of illegal immigrants.
What government agency again?
Which government agency?
What government agency says that?
I don't have the sources in front of me.
Okay. Because you know that's important to. I mean, if somebody just saying that on, I say a lot of crazy shit stuff. I'm sorry, Senator.
Senator, please.
You can ding me. I say a lot of crazy stuff all the time. It doesn't make it true. But I do think we need to be careful. And maybe you didn't know, but and the reason I'm passionate about this, and I can tell Senator Gregory as well, is I represent a very, very diverse community. And I will tell you, my people ain't getting no Medicaid. They ain't getting no food stamps. They don't get no Section 8. They pay their taxes because they all work, and they will not get anything, nothing at all. I know a 68-year-old lady. She became legal when she was about 40. She had been here for about 20-some years. She retired at about 55 from her job. Those first 20-some-odd years, she don't got nothing to show for it because she could not get any of the money she placed into the Social Security system. She can't get it. They don't count that as part of her quarters. So I just want us to be careful when we're saying that they're pulling from our system and we don't have the resources or the sources to tell us exactly what that is. And I appreciate you coming here, I really do. But I think we have to be careful on that if we don't know what the true facts are. When you go to the farms in Missouri, we have Hispanics working there. one, they're underpaid, but we never go after the farmer. We're not going after companies like Tyson, but they do take taxes out of their checks, and they forward them on to the government. Thank you.
Further questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. All right, we'll move to opposition. So those in opposition. Yeah, you have 1 minute. Did you testify earlier also opposed to this at the same time?
Yeah, but this is just what I'm going to say.
Very quickly. It's a very, very long day if we're allowing you to testify against it twice.
My name is Germán González Herrera from González Herrera Law Firm. I am immigration attorney working for 7 years. I just want to say on record that the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, does not give any money for the people that is contact them. That is, you can see on their social media and in the webpage of them, they said, for the record, contrary to rumors, ICE is not giving a $750 reward for tips in support of civil immigration enforcement objectives. Thank you.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anybody else here to testify in support of Senate Bill 72? Anybody here to testify in support? Seeing none, anybody else here to testify in opposition?
Chair, members of the committee, Henry Telmack with the International Institute of St. Louis to go on record in opposition to Senator Gregory's bill. I'll keep it short. So the Institute works with immigrants who have come to this country lawfully, whether that's through the refugee resettlement program, asylum resettlement program, or the onerous immigration system that we have in place. But our biggest concerns, while we do have many, with this bill is the perception and the reality that legal immigrants will face in this state. Senator Gregory alluded to that there is an incentive of $1,000 for those who report an immigrant that they believe are possibly here illegal. That incentivization to folks does create some concerns for the Institute, as this does possibly create situations in which those who are here lawfully, possibly living here for decades, paying taxes, which immigrants, I believe, in 2022 paid $856 million in state and local taxes. That will create a concern for them, as they are now possibly going to be discriminated against. I say this as, Mr. Chair, you typically bring out the point that I typically wear my headphones everywhere that I go. Many of you know who I am. I came to this country as an asylee, right, when I was at the age of 5 or 6. And I speak Creole, or French, with my parents at all times. Senator Washington has asked that I speak French, so my real name is Henri Telemac. Je suis de Haïti, je vis en Haïti, et je viens de Amérique à l'âge de 7 ans. Right, so I speak French or Creole often when I'm speaking to my friends or my family, or my accent returns when I'm speaking to a friend from Senegal or Zimbabwe or Ghana. Now, if I go to the store and someone believes that I'm a legal immigrant, they can report me to the hotline. Senator Gregory has said that there will be a warrant that is necessary for me to be arrested. But the bill doesn't say that, and Senator, I know you have a sub that may change that, and so I'm speaking solely to the bill in front of all of us right now. And that is the concern. I may be brought in front of a peace officer. The police officer, if there is a warrant, comes to me and says, hey, you've been identified as a possible illegal immigrant. I am a United States citizen, something I'm proud of. My passport says it. I checked. And so I am here legally, though the chair doesn't believe I graduated from Sherman. I also did that. And so our concern is that this bill, the perception for Missourians, will change for those who came here lawfully, went through the onerous system that is the immigration process. It is a piece of conversation that we will have to have on the reformation of the immigration process itself, but this bill does create some concerns on the impact it will have for those who are here lawfully and paying taxes and living and their livelihoods, as discrimination may occur.
Thank you. Questions for this witness? He already did. Do you have? I mean, have at it. I think he's ready to go. Have at it. Yeah. I mean, we're doing whatever. So.
I know I'm a rookie over here too. So thanks for going along.
Senator Gregory.
Mm-hmm. You know, with the person that reports get the $1,000 reward. I'm not is there a mechanism in that in which if there is false reporting from multiple times from the same person, will they be then, what's the deal with that?
Yep, it's already against the law. That is false reporting and harassment, multiple areas of law that you can be criminally prosecuted and civilly sued. But as I was explaining to Senator Weber, it's going to be hard for you to know that you're being harassed because, again, warrantless arrests, reasonably suspicious stops, these things are not allowed even by police officers. So people can't be walking up to someone they think's illegal and asking them, are you illegal? Let me see your papers. It's not allowed. It's already not allowed by law. It's U.S. constitutional law. We can't change that. So that's why, he's talking about he doesn't see warrants in the bill. You don't need to see warrants in the bill. It is the law. It is federal law. There must be a warrant, either a federal detainer warrant or, in this case, a bench warrant for an arrest. It is required by law. So, yes.
So if someone calling multiple calls to the hotline from the same person.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I have it in the
Okay.
sub just for clarification, but again, it just
Okay,
clarifies.
if
It's
it's in there,
already
it's
in
all
law. Page 5, subsection F, you'll see.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Is this the, okay. Further, nobody else is here to testify in favor, correct? Okay. Anybody else here to testify in opposition to the bill? Go ahead and hop up. You have a minute. We gave some luxuries to the first couple witnesses, so we're going to keep it to 1 minute. Some of you also have testified earlier against both bills, so we know some of the comments already. Go ahead. Go ahead.
My name is Gabriela Cepeda. As the daughter of immigrants, I grew up witnessing firsthand the sacrifices my parents made to give me a life filled with opportunity. They left behind the only home that they had ever known and to start anew in a place where they could build a future for their family. This story is not unique. It is the founding basis of our country. I want to repeat that. It is the founding basis of our country. Millions of people come here with the same hopes and dreams, often risking everything for a chance at safety, stability, and a better life. This bill, however, threatens to criminalize those hopes and dreams. It does not recognize the humanity behind these journeys. Instead, it imposes severe, life-altering punishment, including life imprisonment without parole, for individuals whose only civil offense is being present in this state without legal status. This is not justice, it's cruelty. Moreover, the creation of a bounty hunter program and tip line targeting undocumented individuals is not only unnecessarily but deeply dangerous. This profiling encouraged by SB72 will inevitably affect not only non-citizens but also citizens who look like me, Latinos, and other people of color. This bill fosters a climate of fear where people feel unsafe engaging in even the most basic activities beyond going to work or school, terrified of being profiled or targeted. Life imprisonment for simply existing in the state without documentation is not just extreme, it's cruel and unusual punishment. Our Constitution guarantees protections for such punishments to anyone within this country, regardless of citizenship status.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Any questions for the witness? Seeing none. And again, if you've testified already opposed to the bills, if you have some comments that aren't the same from the first bill to the second bill, that'd be really helpful. Also, if you have written testimony, we can get that to the committee, so you don't have to read off of a testimony. We can make sure the whole committee gets your written testimony. Proceed when you're ready. You have 1 minute.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Beto Martinez. That is my name. Okay. We have directly seen, right, U.S. citizens across the country being detained. All right, and I know I only have 1 minute, so I want to get just to moving my talking points around. So from history, while Citizens Protection Act of 1998, if you know that act, should hold bounty hunters accountable from any harm done. Often in such cases, we know that harm is not is reversible. The majority of bail programs require no education, let alone the current gun law allows people at the age of 19 can become owners in the state, and this is your base. The 19-year-old's mental development is generally not considered fully matured, as the brain, particularly the prefrontal cortex responsible for decision-making and impulse control, continues to develop significantly into the mid to late 20s, and the base that is behind this is in that age range there. I want to share that, and this is research. If you had questions, I can
Thank you.
tell you where I got this from. One of the
Thank
last,
you, sir.
Yeah, one last thing.
Really quickly.
I wanna say, immigrants come to work here. They are allowing businesses to hire more workers and grow their profit margin. Immigrants do not take jobs from others because they create a higher demand for goods and services and thus create more jobs. Immigrants contribute approximately $2.2 trillion annually to the U.S. economy, accounting for around 8% of the country's gross domestic product. That is larger than the whole Canadian economy. We oppose this awful legislation,
Thank you, sir.
and we affirm the right that people of color, indigenous, and immigrants be free from any form of discrimination or bias.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for the witness? Seeing none. Further testimony against Senate Bill 72.
Good
Proceed.
evening. Jacqueline Barget, registered lobbyist here on behalf of the City of St. Louis to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 72. I also have a letter on Senate Bill 58 for you as well. The City of St. Louis is home to immigrants from across the world, including the biggest Bosnian population in the United States. We openly welcomed refugees from Afghanistan that helped our troops across the seas, and we have a very vibrant Latin American immigrant population that is the core of our Cherokee neighborhood. In levity of time, I also did include a letter from the mayor outlining her opposition to this, but in short, immigrants are a massive part of our community in the city of St. Louis and a core of our economy, and we want to make sure that any legislation that is passed is not instilling more fear in the immigrant population in St. Louis.
Thank you. Questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Proceed when you're ready.
Okay. Hi, my name's Seth Burball. I'm a lifelong resident of Missouri. I'm proud to say I'm a full-time student at Mizzou. I am also a worker for the state under the Department of Natural Resources. Growing up in rural Missouri, I have seen copious amounts of racism within my community, and I believe that this bill would fuel the hate that I see within my area. I do not believe that the people that I have heard these horrible things from would educate themselves on the legalities of this bill in depth enough to know that there are legal repercussions that come with falsely reporting somebody, and I believe that all of these false reports within this community would waste precious state time. As a lifelong resident of Missouri, I have faced problems within our Medicaid system and have spent months waiting for state workers to properly handle my case. I have also spent 4 years within our legal system, as I was molested from the time I was 9 to the time that I was 13, and it took over 4 years for them to handle my case. I'm not confident in the state's ability to properly handle all of these accusations towards people who are potentially legal residents in my area.
Thank you, sir. Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anybody else here to testify in opposition? Come on up. Again, if you've testified opposed earlier already, it's already in the record, so.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much. I'm here because I'm worried about rural Missouri. My family has a farm in the Missouri River bottoms. 84% of Missouri's counties are dying. The death rate is greater than the birth rate. In the last census, 50 counties lost population, and that's true for those counties going back decades. The best thing that could happen to New Madrid County is that a Pakistani ophthalmologist would move there and treat old people's glaucoma. I really don't think it's a terrible thing that there's a group of El Salvadoran people in Marshall, Missouri working at the big grain elevator. If you're in Worth County, if you're in Scotland County can't hire a maintenance guy to clear the gravel roads. I think these counties are going to have ghost towns eventually. And if you are up in Worth County with fewer than 4,000 residents, how many families do you need to keep a restaurant open or keep a school open? So I think we should consider making it possible for people to move here. If you do your research, you'll find out that many economists, like 1,700 economists in 2017 and 500 in 2006, will tell you straight up that immigrants are good for our economy and we need them.
Thank you. Questions? Seeing none. Further testimony in opposition. You can come up, so you can sit on both sides, surround the senator, and we'll go one at a time.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Yasmin Bruno Valdez, and I am a longtime Missouri resident, community advocate, and a DACA recipient. and I stand before you to urge you to recognize my humanity and that of our diverse community in Kansas City and across the great state of Missouri. I implore you to oppose Senate Bill 72. This bill would not only tear apart families, schools, and congregations and communities, but also pit neighbors against one another. It would incentivize discrimination, foster xenophobia, and perpetuate division. By placing a price tag of a mere $1,000 on my head, this bill ignores the devastating realities of apprehension, detention, and deportation. It dismisses the traumatizing impacts of these encounters, where women like myself have faced horrifying violence, broken bones, black eyes, and in some cases, rape. You cannot place a price on human life, yet this bill attempts to do just that. By encouraging individuals to report those that they suspect of being undocumented, you are promoting a culture of fear, tearing at the fabric of our communities and the values our nation was founded on. I ask you to look at me in the eyes today and recognize that I am human, just like you. I breathe the same air, just like you. I share the same hopes, dreams, and fears, just like you. I strive for a better future for myself, my family, and that of the state of Missouri.
Thank you, ma'am.
Do not strip me of my humanity. Please stand against SB 72.
Thank you for your testimony. Next witness in opposition. Go ahead when you're ready.
First, I would like to start by asking why you did not mention that the bill states that these immigrants will have lifetime imprisonment without the possibility of parole. And I ask you, where will these people be imprisoned? Okay, because there is a GEO group, which is a private-owned prison that holds illegal immigrants in Washington, and they had a lawsuit against them for forced labor, and they had to pay for that. So I think this real issue is that you guys want free labor from these people. They're not good enough to be in our country to live among us, but they're good enough to be a prisoner for you guys to line your pockets. This isn't about race. This is about money, okay? Because the person, this man, the watch that he has on is probably worth more than anybody in this room makes in a week. So that's what this really
And
about.
if you can keep your comments to the bill and the policy before you, we aren't going to disparage
I'm
members of this body.
I'm not discouraging anybody, but I'm finished. So
Thank you for your testimony. Anybody else here? Ma'am, we need to record your name. Can you identify yourself?
My name is Amira.
Thank you. Next. It's on the sheet. Proceed when you're ready. You have 1 minute.
It's Amanda Cruz. I'll try to talk as quickly as I can. First of all, I wanted to address what was said about ICE not stopping people and asking for their papers. I've seen it. I am representing the Hispanic community because I am a part of the Hispanic community, and I have seen it multiple times this past weekend where they are walking up to people, let me see your residency. Do you have residency? My ex-husband was stopped because they're brown and they had ladders on their car, and they were asked, are you residents? Are you residents? And they took them all, except my ex-husband because he has his residency. But the rest of them got taken. They were all asked. That's the first thing they were asked. They weren't asked their names. They were asked what their status is. But I wanted to talk about these things because the Hispanic population in the St. Louis area, where we live, we hear gunshots all the time, constantly, but we don't see people out bounty hunting them, trying to put them in prison for the rest of their lives. These are people who came here simply to make a better life for their family, and they don't deserve life in prison simply for wanting better for their children and their families. So that's why I'm here. I'm
Thank you,
simply
ma'am.
trying to represent them. You're very welcome. Thank you.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Further opposition to the bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tori Schaefer with the ACLU of
Know your
Missouri.
face. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I'm here to speak in opposition of Senate Bill 72. Most of what I wanted to say today has already been covered, but I wanted to talk about federal preemption laws. So I included some case sites for you all where if this bill were to become law, the ACLU would bring a lawsuit just as we have in Iowa, Iowa, Oklahoma, and Texas. We've been successful in those cases because judges have agreed that we're likely to succeed on the merits because the federal government has an invested interest in carrying out federal law, which is exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about ICE enforcement, which clearly falls under federal law. Okay, so case sites on the back for you all. And then I also wanted to draw attention to the DNA sample portion of this bill. We at the ACLU of Missouri also oppose making a database of immigrants' DNA. We believe this would be a chilling misuse of Missouri's resources. And then again, referring back to the fiscal note from earlier, the Attorney General's office did not have time to input their fiscal impact on this, but we just want to estimate that multiple lawsuits will come from this, not only for us on the federal law challenges, but also from the individual challenges being brought about by the racial profiling that was mentioned earlier. So given the legal issues, right for challenge at the cost of taxpayers, and the sheer lack of necessity for this bill, we ask the committee to oppose.
Thank you. Senator Washington, go ahead.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you for being here. I heard you mention that you've filed cases against similar statutes in Texas.
Texas, Oklahoma, and Iowa is where we have cases.
And I heard you say successful, so could you explain that?
Yeah, we've been successful at putting these laws on hold, and the crux of that legal argument is saying the enforcement of this federal law, right, immigration policy, that is federal law. It is on ICE to carry out those procedures. If the states go in and create their own criminal statutes, it directly conflicts with what the federal government is doing.
And were
so,
these federal cases?
Yes, one is in the Eighth Circuit. So my colleague earlier who talked about our preliminary injunction that was upheld on Friday, that's in the Eighth Circuit, which is of course binding over our jurisdiction.
That's what I wanted you to say. I wasn't here when he talked about that,
No,
so
I got it all written down for you too.
Yeah, and we can get his senator the case if he needed.
Yes. Thank you.
Schaefer, any information you have, you send it to the committee, we'll get it distributed. Thank
Absolutely.
you. Any
Thank
other
you.
questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you. Further testimony in opposition, go ahead.
Yep, you're okay. I had a lot more to say, but I didn't come here with really any facts, but what I did come is from my personal experience, and I did want to say that right now, as we speak, as we go through this, there are actually Hispanic people, immigrants, downtown, rebuilding our community that was messed up during the 2019 storm that destroyed downtown, which there really hasn't been anything done for the community since that happened. But what I have seen are Hispanic people down there rebuilding the homes and selling them to get the community back together. So I just think for Jefferson City, we're literally the capital of Missouri, and we can't even put our money where it needs to go. I mean, I see they put a wall up to cover all the broken homes and that were destroyed by the storm, but they didn't put the money in to fix those. And the only person I've seen so far are the immigrants downtown working on them. So I think that we definitely take far more from them than aid ever would take from us.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Also, we need your name for our records
My
and
name
who you're
is
with.
Ace Fontenot, and I'm representing myself.
Thank you. Questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anybody else here in opposition?
Yes, that's from my
We asked you again, if you've come up and testified already
She's the one that spoke before me.
against both of these bills, we have you on record for that. Proceed when you're ready.
My name is Ross Cleveland, Missouri resident, born and raised. I fear the most the social consequences of involving the general public in this bill. I think this will incentivize the general population to suspect any Hispanic-looking person of being a criminal. I spoke with my childhood best friend this past weekend, who's married to a Hispanic woman, born to American citizens. They currently live in Kansas City, Missouri, where they already are experiencing increased levels of hate towards their community. His wife now carries her marriage license when she goes out until her passport arrives. She's never traveled outside of our country, so she hasn't needed a passport to prove American citizenship before. She is now getting that passport not to travel, but to prove to fellow Americans that she is a citizen. In today's Christian churches, many people think it ridiculous that any of them would have been opposed to Martin Luther King and the work that he did, but in the 1960s, many white Christians were opposed or not concerned with his cause, and very few marched with him. I believe it's time to stand on the right side of history and stand up for injustice instead of looking back at mistakes.
Thank you for your testimony. Questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Go ahead. Proceed.
Yes, again, Ashley Hicks, St. Louis, Missouri. Actually, just what he said, I carry around my passport for the same reason, to show that I am a U.S. citizen. When I was young, I watched on the news a kid who got home and shot himself in the head because his parents was getting deported and he has no family. The most important thing here are these kids that nobody's talking about, or that who's going to be left without parents because they were born here and their parents weren't. Where are all these kids going to go? What is going to happen to them? They're going to foster care. What happens in foster care? Most of them get raped, get placed in homes, and get mistreated. Why these families, you're putting a price on their head, but yet you have American with white skin who are out here raping, doing whatever they want. They don't have a price on their head. Why do we have a price? What makes us different from you guys? What makes us different from a white? Just because we're colored?
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions for this witness? Seeing none. Next, in opposition.
Hi, my name is Raisa Guevara. Senator, I'm from Venezuela.
Please, ma'am, if you wouldn't mind addressing the committee.
I moved to Kansas City, Missouri back in 1995, and this is a great country. It gave me the opportunity for me to be here, raise my son. I'm a health worker. I work for hospice for the last 23 years, and a house owner. I pay my house. I never been in food stamp. I never use. I always pay for my insurance. I pay my taxes, and I'm a very successful person. As a being in America, the United States gave me the opportunity for me to be where I am right now. Now, with this bill, anybody can ask me, are you a citizen of the United States? Are you illegal? Are you undocumented? This Missouri is a better state. I'm being here for the last 30 years of my life, and I never feel discriminated until now. The people even call me, oh, I don't want you to serve me because you're Mexican. I'm not Mexican. I was born in another country. But this is not right. I don't want my name, my last name, Guevara, to have $1,000 price. Missouri is the best state that I live here for 30 years, and I never feel discriminated or nothing against me. I ask you to think about it.
Thank you.
The passing this bill.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none. Next, in opposition.
Thanks. Hello, my name is Liz Bird. I'm from Defiance, Missouri. I am opposed to SB 72 as just a citizen of Missouri. I believe that it encourages racial profiling and enables vigilantism. I truly believe it's a law based in cruelty, and it's built to be abused, and it should not be passed. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Seeing none. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Sean Cockrum. I'm the former president of the National Association of State Directors of Migrant Education. I had the privilege of serving 22 years as our state's director of migrant education for our Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. And I retired a couple years ago, so now I'm just an old guy from Callaway County. And I appreciate the senator coming and making some clarifications today and explaining some things to us. And I heard him say a few things that I wanted to bring up. He said that a lot of this was just like ICE, to quote him. He mentioned the bounties, just like ICE. All those things were just like ICE. And then he was able to say that a lot of the things that we've heard through the media are false. So I'm curious, if the committee may want to ask, if it's just like ICE and everything you hear about it is false, why would we want to spend $4 million per the fiscal note for maybe another political advertisement? Or why exactly we would want to be spending $4 million on this when it's just like ICE? Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Seeing none. Go ahead. Please.
Members of the committee, my name is Carla Juarez, and I serve as the Executive Director of Advocates for Immigrant Rights and Reconciliation. We're an immigrant rights advocacy that also provides education in the realities about immigration, in case you're interested. For the record, ICE does not pay people to report undocumented immigrants. They do have a hotline. They do not pay people. And if they do and we don't know about it, I'd like you to cite the source so we can inform our people. This bill is too vague. People are already struggling already, and immigrants are not to blame. Instead, we should be spending this money on healthcare, housing, and education. SB7 will in fact increase racial profiling. It will really well. A 10th grader probably can read this bill and say that it will increase racial profiling. Not by just the police, but our neighbors. It is simply racist. I was born in Mexico. Just by that statement and speaking Spanish at the grocery store with my family, siblings, friends, someone may suspect I'm undocumented and report me. That is just the reality that we're looking at with this bill. And I'm sorry, I asked for 30 more seconds. It took 10 years for me to obtain my citizenship. During that time, I was undocumented, held a work permit, and received my green card as well as my citizenship just 5 years ago. It is possible for an undocumented person to apply for immigration relief, but the wait is too long. And it is not fair and it is inhumane to prevent someone from seeking a safe life, real liberty, and the pursuit of happiness while they're waiting. It is unfair to be investigated. A reporting hotline and bounty hunter program is terrible. We firmly ask you to vote against this bill and any bill of this kind that will deny anybody basic human rights.
Thank you. Questions? Seeing none. Really quick, if you could raise your hand if you're still set to testify on this bill so we know what we're up against. We have another bill that's going to take a while, and a lot of this is testimony we keep hearing. So if you could quickly go through your testimony, that'd be really helpful. So I think I had 4 more. Put your hands up really quick. There's more outside. Okay. We really need to get going. I think we're on hour 4 of the hearing. So go ahead and proceed. You have a minute.
My name is Andrea Pryor. I'm from Bourbon, Missouri. I've been a server for over 10 years and worked at 3 different Mexican restaurants. I work closely with a lot of immigrants within my community. I think it's important to point out this bill plays off of the fear-mongering and motivation for money in the citizens of Missouri, and I think that's wrong. I think it's a fact that the citizens of Missouri are motivated a lot more from empathy and love that they have for their neighbors and their community members. I think it's dangerous to not include that as a thing that you should take into consideration when you consider passing this bill, because the people next to the immigrants are not just going to sit next to them as they get carried away. So it's important to take into account the political climate that we have today in this day and age with our new president. And I think it would be in the safety of the police, the citizens, and all of the immigrants to understand that there is a unity between immigrants and citizens today.
Thank you for your testimony. Questions? Seeing none. Next. Next in opposition, we're going to move it down to 45 seconds because we have to get through another dozen people before our next bill, and we are going to hear our next bill. So if you could respect the people that are in this room on that too. They've been here waiting a long time to be considered. So go ahead when you're ready. You have 45 seconds.
Hi, my name is Shelley Saladin, and I'd like to continue the conversation on the financial aspect. So according to the Economic Times, it costs nearly $1 million for deportation flights, and I know we're talking at the state level, and I don't have the state statistics, but I do have the national statistics. And this is bigger than even a state issue because this is going to be affecting our entire country if Missouri passes this bill. And we're already a country that's trillions of dollars in debt. So, like, who's going to be paying for this? Because if Missourians are expected to foot the bill to deport its immigrants, that means, like, taxes are likely to increase. And I know the Missourians are tired of being price gouged
Thank you,
with
ma'am.
their taxes.
Appreciate your testimony. Go ahead with your testimony.
Oop, my bad.
Please make sure that you fill out a witness form too for our records.
thank
We
you.
need, if you want it to be on the record. Go ahead.
Really quick, which one of you is Senator Gregory?
Which
You.
you want on the committee or the sponsor of the bill? Because the sponsor's sitting right next to you, and there's another Senator Gregory that sits on this committee. But if you could keep your comments to the committee so we know where you stand on the issue, that's where we're at. So
Cool.
30 seconds.
Wait, so this is your bill?
Yes.
Ah.
What?
Hi, my name's Ariana Budyard. I am I'm a citizen. I was born in California. I could add on to a lot of the heartfelt stories I've heard, and I could tell you about the people that in my life are going to be directly affected by this. But something that I haven't heard anybody touch on is the historical overlap of these things already previously happening. In 1943, during World War II, bounty hunters were hired on by the Nazis in Germany for this specific and same cause.
Thank you for your testimony.
Really quick, I want to look you in the face and tell you
Ma'am,
you're a fucking
ma'am,
fascist,
ma'am.
Gregory.
We're not going to disparage members of the committee. Please exit the room. It's uncalled for and unnecessary. If you want to have a civil debate, we're here to have it, and we've been very, very gracious today to try to get all these people through and to hear your stories and listen to your comments. If you could respect us back, that would be super helpful. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, my name is Eze Poachman, as in yellow, and Missourians have real problems, like problems that need to be addressed. We don't need senators creating new problems for us. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, in opposition, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of new points. I think everyone covered everything really well. I think this bill's racist. It discriminates against people because of their skin color. I think you're also just inviting racist people, and especially like Proud Boys and other terrorist organizations, to target immigrants and people of color. And I mean, these are the things that you're going to be remembered for, are these bills. So make sure and back it up with 100% of your
Ma'am,
heart.
you're talking to the committee, please.
Okay,
Don't.
make sure and back it up with 100% of your heart, because you're going to be remembered on this side of history.
Thank you for your testimony. Ma'am, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Maggie DeMuhlmeister. I'm an educator in Missouri and an artist. This bill proposes a dehumanizing program that's intended to cause chaos and sow division in Missouri. It's written with calculated cruelty and a cold dismissal of fundamental human rights. If it's enacted, it will be remembered forever as an atrocity, and those who passed it into law will be remembered as egregious violators of human rights. All of this in a state with crumbling infrastructure, with declining education, in desperate need of resources, with enrollment steadily dropping and our education ranking 30th in the nation. This bill proposes allocating funds not to schools, to teachers, or to infrastructure, but instead to pit neighbors against neighbors.
Thank you for your testimony.
I'm not finished.
I'm really sorry.
I would like to remind you that no one is illegal on stolen land.
Okay. Thank you for your testimony, sir. Go ahead. You have 45 seconds.
Thank you. James Pepler, St. Louis, Missouri, retired Air Force employee. And I've missed some of the testimony, but what I want to emphasize is like life in prison without parole for not having documentation. That is the same sentence as we give people for first-degree murder. That's not proportionate. I would also like to say, because I haven't heard it emphasized, that this really smacks of creating a prison labor pool that our corporations can draw from and pay people 7 cents an hour and not pay a legal Missouri citizen $7.25 an hour, or whatever the minimum wage has been since 1986.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for your testimony. Go ahead, ma'am. You're 45 seconds.
My name is Laura. I am here on behalf of my community and also as a citizen of Missouri. My understanding of making laws is that you are responsible for predicting the impact that it's going to have on your communities, correct? Because there's a difference between writing something and interpreting what is going to happen. That means that you all will be responsible for the families torn apart, for all of the people who will inevitably get racially profiled, who have incredible difficulty in finding defense attorneys, because as was mentioned earlier, that takes years. That'll be on this committee. All of the damage to our communities, everything that's lost, resources, time, lives, families, businesses, that will be on you, because you did not properly predict how this will decimate our community.
Thank you for your testimony. Go ahead, sir. 45 seconds.
My name is Ethan Crawford from St. Louis.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm here in opposition of Senate Bill 72, which I believe will not serve the interest of Missouri community, but will instead perpetuate a system that disproportionately benefits corporations and industries that profit from prison labor. The 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery, includes an exemption, prison labor. This exemption has created a legal loophole that has allowed exploitation of incarcerated individuals for cheap, often forced labor. SB 72 will disproportionately benefit industries that rely on prison labor. People must acknowledge that prison labor is already a multi-billion-dollar industry in Missouri and in the United States.
Thank you, sir, for your testimony. And if you want to send that to the committee, written testimony, we'll get it out to the whole committee. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Sankeeth Tumala. I'm a PhD in nuclear engineering student at Missouri S&T, and I just want to say that, as stated by previous speakers, this would harm us economically, and even the people who might have those tendencies to be to stand against immigrants, illegal or otherwise. This is still going to hurt them economically speaking. They're still going to be subject to the increase in taxes, and the only people that are going to profit are, as stated previously, those in working in the prison industrial complex.
Thank you. Next witness in opposition. Hop up quickly. We're going to have to move on if you don't. Thank you.
Hola y muy buenos días del comité. My name's Lauren Hughes, and I came here from Kansas City, but I was born and raised in the Rio Grande Valley on the border of Mexico. My lived experience for 25 years and ties to farmers, business, and community there contradicts the brief visits that Ms. Carter spoke about earlier. You may feel that our testimonies are redundant, but we feel that these contentious bills are redundant. I'd actually like to speak directly to you, Mr. Gregory.
Ma'am, if you can speak to the committee, you can't speak to the sponsor. You're here in front of our committee, and we are taking testimony and questions.
All right, perfect. Well, I would like to speak to the demographics of District 15, which were unknown earlier. They're actually 4.3 Hispanic and Latino. So about 78% of Mexican citizens are Roman Catholic, like some people in this
If you
room.
want to, ma'am, if you want to email the demographics of his district to our committee, we'll distribute those as needed, but we have to move through the testimony.
Yeah, so people baptized in the faith believe that the most prosperous nations are obliged, to the extent that they are able, to welcome the foreigner in search and security and means of livelihood which cannot be found in their country of origins.
Okay, ma'am,
Families
we need to move on to the next witness.
Have I hit 60 seconds?
45 seconds.
A moment
And
ago,
they're
you
up.
said illegal immigration is bad. We the people believe that no human is illegal.
Thank you. Next witness in opposition. Just both of you come up. We'll just go one at a time. You streamline it a little bit. Either one, proceed when you're ready.
Okay. Hi, I'm Natalia. I'm from Kansas City. I'm a member of the Kansas-Missouri Dream Alliance to stand in opposition of SB 72. SB 72 is inhumane and puts a price tag on the heads of each of our undocumented loved ones, neighbors, and coworkers. The type of language in this bill is dangerous and encourages racial profiling, allowing private citizens, bounty hunters, to do the duties of federal government into their own hands, putting the health and safety at risk of our entire community, which I think should be a top concern of the Department of Public Safety. Over 2,000 people have already emailed their opposition. Many people from across the state have taken time from their work days to be here in person today to deliver testimony to oppose this harmful anti-immigrant bill. Throughout the afternoon, it's been mentioned several times how some testimonies are making arguments that we have already heard as to discourage us from continuing to speak on it. The reason for these hearings is to hear from the people of Missouri on this bill, and it's clear the people of Missouri oppose SB 72 and will continue to oppose it one after another this afternoon and going forward.
Thank you, ma'am. And we're not trying to cause anybody to not be heard, but this is a longer process than most Senate committees. If you just take a look, we are trying to give everybody a voice. Ma'am, go ahead. You have 45 seconds.
Thank you, Senator Fitzwater, and thank you for making the time to hear everyone. I know the time is limited, but it does mean a lot to not cut off the hearing. I'm going to talk about something that I've heard very few people mention, and that is that without access to the committee substitute, at least, the original bill filing had the penalty being associated with this new crime as life sentence without the possibility of parole. I want to point out that this is on par with first-degree murder, child abuse resulting in serious injury or death, arson resulting in serious injury or death, bombing a bus, and treason. Even if this was going to be a thing that we criminalize, that is not a fitting sentence for that new crime. And Missouri simply doesn't have the resources to support putting people in life sentences without the possibility of parole. We already spend $76 million in taxpayer dollars a year on the Department of Corrections, and we don't need to spend more doing something the federal government is already responsible for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next witness, go ahead.
My name is Rodrigo Alvarez. I came here about 20 years ago. My parents have been as slow abiding as they can be. They have always taught me to do the right thing, and I feel like this bill, based on racial profiling and not effort, is actually profiling us immigrants based on appearances, and I think that is unconstitutional.
Thank you.
I'm not done, but I appreciate you. Sorry.
20 seconds. Sorry.
You know what? I'm done. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you for your testimony. How many more are here to testify in opposition? Can you raise your hand? Last one. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, Jeff Steck again with the Mid-Missouri Fellowship of Reconciliation. Earlier, I heard Senator Gregory mention again that this is kind of the equivalent of ICE here in Missouri, and it seems that it's redundant. Why have it? We already have this federal process in place. No need to recreate it. The other thing that Senator Gregory had mentioned was talking about terrorists, and I think there's that kind of that comparison of illegal aliens as being terrorists, and that's far from the truth. I'll just point out Cato Institute looked at Texas crime figures for 2018. It looked at per 100,000 people, and they found that of 100,000 people, 1,422 people, native-born Texans, had committed crimes. They also looked at 100,000 people, and they found that 535 of 100,000 people had committed crimes who were legal immigrants, and 782 people per 100,000 people committed crimes who were illegal immigrants. So much less of a danger. I think we need to change the policy and recognize the humanity of all.
Thank you for your testimony. Anybody else here to testify in opposition? Last chance. Seeing none, anybody for informational purposes only? Seeing none, that'll conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 72. Senator Bratton, you've been very patient today. Senate Bill 23, when you're ready, go ahead and start the hearing. People will be filing out, but we need to get going. It's been a long day for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, for the record, Senator Rick Bratton, 31st Senatorial District, Cass County, Johnson County, and Bates County, bringing forward Senate Bill 23. So basically, virtually every member on here has actually voted on SEPA, even supported SEPA. The 8th Circuit, it was challenged by the DOJ. They found some issues, not with the underlying aspect of SEPA, just with references to federal agents and just basically the preamble of what SEPA was, not so much the underlying tenets of what SEPA was, of the enforcement mechanism. So basically that's what this is. This isn't rehashing SEPA. This isn't coming and reinventing the wheel or any sort of additions or anything. This is just clarifying and making it in line with what the 8th Circuit had done. So basically what you're seeing with the new language, it's not new language. It's just being reshuffled into a different section. And that's basically what it is. Now, I'll just briefly tell you where the actual changes of the bill. There was a committee substitute that was distributed that fixed that. Let me, I passed it. There we go. So on page 4, the 1.451, that's where there's a little bit of, there were the changes, and it removed the references to the federal agents that the courts had seen as the problematic, and that they didn't like that. So this basically just only references any state or local official aiding the feds. That's all that this was cleanup language. If you go to page 5, all the way down to the subsection 1 under 471, it basically just reworded and reshuffled that to come in line with what the court ruling was. So I know you guys have had an extremely daunting hearing prior to this one, so I will not belabor the point and would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
I don't know if there's ever a scenario where SEPA would be the dialed back bill that we hear.
I was
committee.
really depressed to see everybody
But
leave
maybe
the
we'll
room.
be, I don't know. We haven't heard from the police yet, so maybe not. Any questions for the sponsor of the bill? Senator Weber, go ahead.
Thanks, sir. Senator, this is my first time hearing the bill because it was gone for a while. Could you just go over, and you did a little bit, but explain the changes? So is the court unconstitutional? What are the pieces that have been removed from that? I said it was reworked, but is there stuff that's gone?
Yeah, so the beginning of it was the declarative statement as to why we needed the bill. So it was kind of all the whereases, why we wanted to invoke our 10th Amendment right to not work with the feds to confiscate the Second Amendment or our Second Amendment right or any guns. That was kind of the premise, and that's what's being removed from that. And then that I referenced on the page 4 and then the page 5. That's where the real changes of it originally referenced the federal agents that we weren't going to work with them. The court didn't like that we referenced the federal agents because of the supremacy aspect of it. So this just makes sure that we're only naming, and I'm sorry, I should have made sure that you did have the committee sub. I apologize. So yeah, it's just making sure that we're only referencing the state or local officials is all that we are trying to do, and clean that up.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Further questions? Seeing none. How many, well, I guess everybody in here is going to say something. So I'm just going to go ahead and all those in support, we'll go back and forth. If you could try to keep it to 2 minutes, since you've all been waiting very patiently, we'll give a lot of grace in here to the extent that it's possible, so we're here really super late. So if you can keep it to 2 minutes, we'd appreciate it, and we will try to be concise on the testimony, even though this is a big bill. We know it's important, needs to be heard. So first witness in support of the bill, hop up here, and let's begin the witnesses. Proceed when you're ready, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Aaron Dorr, Missouri Firearms Coalition. This bill is kind of just a regurgitation of what passed in this chamber in 2021. The court had problems with a couple parts of the language. It did not have a problem with the idea of Missouri not cooperating with federal law enforcement in the purposes of gun confiscation. So that section has been removed from here to restate what Missouri cops can and cannot do. The court also had no problem with the civil penalties that were passed in 2021 that also remains here in the bill. At the end of the day, it's a 14-page bill with, I think, 3 paragraphs of actually modified language. Everything else here is a repaste with a couple modifications from 2021. SEPA, for those who weren't here, did not vote for this in 2021, simply says that Missouri is not going to help federal government enforce federal gun control laws. That's what SEPA was all about, and it had an enforcement clause in case any jurisdiction chose to willfully violate SEPA law. We believe this is still required even with a new administration because we don't know who we're going to have in the White House next. So our members are in full support of this bill. We'd ask this body to move it with no weakening amendments. I would mention briefly the issue of law enforcement comes up. We've talked a lot with law enforcement in the state, both here in the lobby, but also regular frontline cops who call and talk with our office. Almost every frontline cop that we have spoken to or who reached out to us is in support of this bill back in 2021 and today because they don't want to be burdened by having to enforce federal gun control laws. They want to do their job and enforce Missouri law, and they're in support of this. They were then and they are today. That's my comments.
Thank you. Questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Well, I guess we'll go back and forth. So those in opposition, and anybody here in opposition to Senate Bill 23, go ahead and hop up here, and we'll get get your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Once again, my name is David Parrish. I'm the sheriff of Lewis County, Missouri, and I represent the Missouri sheriffs across the state in opposition to this bill in its current form. I was here in 2021. We did have these discussions then, and our concerns were realized after SAPA passed. Our main concern at the time was we did not want to be prevented from chasing bandits, chasing bad guys, catching criminals. And what this bill did, and my colleague from the police chiefs has better information about how it affected police departments and sheriffs across the state, we were unable, or their liability carriers were unwilling to support them even entering a stolen weapon into our mules system. And that, we think, is clearly unfair to the gun rights of our Missouri citizens. The governor himself has set out in his executive order and asked that we help apprehend the 17,000 felonies or persons with felonies that are currently wanted by the state of Missouri. This type of legislation will hamper and create major obstacles for our officers and our deputies throughout the state to go and catch these bad guys in the event that they somehow intervene in a way that someone in the state of Missouri would believe was in error and then sue us for taking a criminal off the street because we might have unfortunately or fortunately supported some federal agent, some FBI agent, some ATF agent, some person like that who has helped us get criminals off the street. And so with that, I know it's been a long day for all of you. I appreciate your questions.
Thank you, sir. Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your time here today.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. So we'll go back to in support. Is anybody else here in support of Senate Bill 23? If so, hop up here. And thanks for your patience. I know you've been here for a while today too.
Do I look cranky?
No.
Specifically
I'm just saying.
to me?
I mean,
I'm all
anybody
good.
who's
I've
willing to
been
sit through all of
itching
that
for the opportunity, so.
It's appreciated.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Susan Myers of the 20th. I'm here to support Senate Bill 23. Nothing demonstrates how badly SAPA is needed, quite like the way the federal government came after it with such a vengeance to shut it down. The fact that we now have a new administration in the White House does not cause my belief to waver on the importance of getting SAPA back in place as quickly as possible. There's no guarantee that the ATF will stop reinterpreting its rules to eke out ever more gun control. We have an individual likely to soon be confirmed as Attorney General of the United States that advocated for and enacted red flag laws in her state of Florida, something myself and the ladies I volunteer alongside are adamantly opposed to. She also supported and defended the restriction on 18 to 20-year-olds from purchasing firearms, again, something I do not support. The Supreme Court continues to punt on hearing assault weapon ban cases, allowing rifles and standard capacity magazines that are unquestionably commonly owned for lawful purposes by millions of citizens to remain off limits to residents in several states. The longer this issue is allowed to linger, the risk of some future Congress bringing a federal ban back will continue to exist. SAPA is a necessary bulwark against whatever comes out of D.C. that Missouri simply does not wish to help enforce. Bring it back, build it with a simple, strong message of intent that cannot be misconstrued as going any further than the anti-commandeering doctrine that it is and always was based upon. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions for this witness? Seeing none.
I'll leave.
We'll go back to opposition. Anybody else here in opposition to Senate Bill 23? And proceed when you're ready, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I appreciate your time. I'll try to make this quick because I know it's been a long day. I'm with the Missouri Police Chiefs Association Law Enforcement Legislative Coalition. We are opposing this at this time. We've not been able to review the substitute bill. Some of the issues, as my colleague brought up with the previous bill, Second Amendment Preservation Act did prohibit. We had legal advisors, attorneys and such that advised some of our police chiefs that they could not put stolen guns into the computer. They could not enter them into NCIC and the CJIS system. This prevents a law-abiding gun owner from getting their gun returned. Additionally, if somebody committed a crime with that weapon, it would go into an evidence lockup. It would stay there. That case would be adjudicated, and eventually that gun would most likely be destroyed. We don't think this is pro-Second Amendment. There were other things that negative effects that occurred from the Second Amendment Preservation Act, to include our police chiefs and law enforcement leadership having to resign from drug task force boards and other federal partners, and we don't want to encroach on that at a time when we're trying to lower crime and we're dealing with an opioid epidemic. We don't want to weaken our drug task forces. We've written all of this out. I'm going to submit it because I know it's been a long day, and I will end it there. I appreciate your time.
Sir, can you also state your name for our public records, too?
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Chris DiGiuseppe.
Thank you.
All right.
Any questions for the witness? Thank you for your testimony, sir. All right, we're going to go back to, I think we're in support, right? I'm trying to wrap my mind around where we're at in this thing. Anybody else here to testify in support of Senate Bill 23?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Ron Calzone. I'm one of the directors of Missouri First. I've been involved with the drafting and passage and promotion of the Second Amendment Preservation Act since 2013. When it passed in 2021, was the product of several years of a lot of study and a lot of effort to make sure that we dotted all of our I's and crossed all of our T's. The first objective of the Second Amendment Preservation Act was to protect the rights of honest, law-abiding Missouri citizens. The second objective was to protect the frontline law enforcement officer, the one who might be concerned about working for a boss that was going to say, you have to help the feds enforce what they might consider to be an unconstitutional gun law, like confiscation of scary black rifles, for instance. So from the beginning, this has been something that's about protecting law enforcement officers that respect our rights. I think there's a pretty good reason to believe that some of the concerns that have been expressed by the legal counsel that some LEOs have gotten about not entering stolen weapons in mules and resigning from task force, part of their motivation may have been to help build a record that would help on appeal when they went to federal court. And so that's something to consider. There's nothing in SEPA that says that you cannot participate in a drug task force or even an ATF task force. Simply, you can avoid any kind of running. You can avoid running afoul of SEPA if you just simply make sure that you're enforcing Missouri gun laws, almost all of which are just mirror images of the federal gun law. So you can be part of a drug task force, firearms task force, any kind of a federal task force. You just make sure that you have an agreement with the feds that you are going to charge criminals under Missouri law and not federal law. And anything else, I think, is a misunderstanding. This bill does not change the fundamental functional portions of SEPA. It just takes away the explanation that the General Assembly made for us taking this action, that is applying the anti-commandeering doctrine and saying we don't want to participate. And at least, I haven't seen the substitute, but at least the original bill the senator filed, that's all it did. It leaves the functional part in just as it existed before. I'm available for questions if you have any.
Questions for the witness? Seeing none. Further testimony in opposition. We'll go back to opposition, so hop up here and please make sure you fill out a witness form. And thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
And being patient. I know you all were patient today too, so thank you for that.
Thank you so much for saying that. I want to start off by just sharing that another organization left their written testimony with me. It's the League of Women Voters of
That's
Missouri.
fine. It'll go into the record.
Okay.
Yep.
Hi, my name's Kristen Bowen, and I am from Columbia, where I've lived for 20 years raising my boys. I'm a volunteer speaking on behalf of the Missouri chapter of Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. I've been a supporter of MOM since 2013, and I'm testifying today on SB23 because it is a dangerous bill that undermines federal firearms regulations by prohibiting state and local officials from enforcing our federal laws, potentially creating a patchwork of enforcement that endangers public safety and hinders efforts to address gun violence. I just want to share some bottom line statistics because we haven't heard these yet tonight. Missouri has the 4th highest rate of gun violence in the country. In the years since I joined Moms Demand, from 2014 to 2023, sadly, the rate of Missouri gun death increased 40%. The rate of gun suicide increased 26%. Gun homicides have increased 59%. So my experience volunteering with Moms Demand and rigorously advocating for safety measures that are supported by evidence leads me to emphasize this bottom line. SB 23 will not reduce gun violence. I know we're running short on time, so I want to go quickly, and there's more detail in my testimony. This bill poses 3 significant concerns. First of all, de facto nullification. By hindering enforcement at the state and local levels, it effectively nullifies federal laws within Missouri's borders. And even though federal agents technically retain authority, they often rely on cooperation with local agencies to enforce our laws effectively. Although I know this bill wants to account for task forces, and we've heard about cooperation tonight from our law enforcement leaders, the standard is confusing and it's impossible to apply. And we think that putting more mental strain on our police, instilling fear in them, is misguided at this moment in time. Second point is the erosion of federal-state cooperation, which you've heard our law enforcement officers share about already. This bill weakens law enforcement, period. The bill imposes civil penalties on law enforcement for assisting in enforcing federal firearm laws, discouraging collaboration between agencies. Quickly, this will just cripple our law enforcement's ability to address illegal gun trafficking and organized crime, which is a topic we heard a lot about today, by the way. Our country and our state are already reeling from mass shootings, from school shootings, and the daily toll of gun violence right here in Missouri. Under a nullification law, Missouri law enforcement officers would no longer be as able to assist federal authorities in keeping guns out of the hands of convicted felons, of domestic abusers, and other dangerous individuals. So I'm here to encourage the members to please vote no on SB 23, and thank you for letting me share this testimony today.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions for the witness? Seeing none. Anybody here to testify in favor? We'll go back to in favor of the bill. Anyone? Anybody here any more to testify in opposition?
Hi, my name is Julie Heisey. I'm just an average citizen, and I didn't have a whole lot to say, but I just wanted to have my 2 cents that I think it's inaccurate and hypocritical for the General Assembly to say in subsection 10 that they strongly promote gun safety when there's no background checks for purchasing a gun in Missouri. I consider that very hypocritical. Thank you.
Questions for the witness? Seeing none. Anybody else here to testify in favor? Sorry, this is last chance. In favor? Seeing none. Okay, we're just going to stick on opposition now. Sorry. Proceed when you're ready.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Jacqueline Barget here again to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 23 on behalf of the City of St. Louis. I do have some written testimony that I'll submit, but one thing that's written in here that I thought would be helpful is, as you all know, the City of St. Louis sued to block this law from going into place when it passed originally, and their objection was not unique. Over 60 Missouri police chiefs also filed a friend of the court brief to support the lawsuit against SEPA, and in those they stated that the act hindered law enforcement's ability to defend and protect Missouri citizens, and I think that is at the root of what our opposition is, especially in a time when we are trying to move the needle in the City of St. Louis and lower crime. We want every resource available to us to help do that.
Questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anybody else here to testify in opposition to the bill? If you're going to do it, pop up. Sorry, it's been a long day.
Be very brief.
Thank
Ben
you.
Jeff Stack with the Mid-Missouri Fellowship of Reconciliation. I won't repeat what the folks have said, but we are also in opposition to this measure. Nothing against Senator Bratton. But there are federal laws in place already. They should be honored, and it's about public safety. We think that that we've heard from police officers and all that it's most appropriate to honor those federal laws and not to throw them out.
Thank you, sir.
That's all.
Okay. Questions for the witness? Seeing none. Thank you for testimony. Anybody else in opposition to the bill? All right. Seeing none. Anybody for informational purposes only? Proceed when you're ready, sir.
Thank you. My name is Dave Rowland. I'm the Director of Litigation for the Freedom Center of Missouri, testifying for informational purposes. And just to make clear, I helped to draft the original version of SEPA. And I wanted to clarify the reason it was structured the way that it was. There was a general sense that Missourians wanted our law enforcement officials to focus on enforcing Missouri law. And when we were preparing the initial version of this, we thought it would be helpful to explain the federal sphere of influence and the state sphere of influence. And so we included the preface, which was section 1.410, that lays out the principles of federalism. And in doing that, we basically just literally echoed Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, and Alexander Hamilton. The following provisions were the teeth of SEPA. They were what it was actually designed to do, and that was to make sure that Missouri resources and law enforcement officials were focused on enforcing the laws that are made here in Jefferson City by the people that we elect, not enforcing federal law. So the bill passed, and I wanted to make sure you understood where the litigation currently stands on that. So the Eighth Circuit did rule that the preface, at least in part, was unconstitutional. They determined, even though I thought we were pretty careful with the wording to make clear that Missouri has no power to nullify federal law, Missouri cannot stop federal officials from enforcing federal law, the Eighth Circuit says merely saying that you don't like what Congress did is enough to call this a violation of the Supremacy Clause. But they did specify that if Missouri wants to withhold its resources and its authority to assist in the enforcement of these federal laws, they're allowed to do that. The Constitution lets them do that. So the amended version of this bill, which you guys are considering, strips out the parts of the original bill that the Eighth Circuit said were effectively trying to nullify state law. It removes those entirely. I have not seen the amendment that's been offered, but I believe it knocks out one additional provision that currently reads, if the federal government assumes powers that the people did not grant, then its acts are unauthoritative, void, and of no force. Again, that's just James Madison and Thomas Jefferson, but if there's a chance that the courts may say, oh, this is trying to nullify the law, let's go ahead and removing it should eliminate that particular concern for the courts. My understanding is that the Attorney General's office has asked the U.S. Supreme Court to review the Eighth Circuit's decision. If they, in fact, have done that, then it's possible that we'll see further action in the federal litigation. It may be that the U.S. Supreme Court decides to take up the case in its entirety. It may be that they say, you know what, let's have the Eighth Circuit take another look at it. Either of these are possible. We just won't know for a couple of months, in all likelihood, what the Supreme Court's going to do with it. But that is where things stand right now. I did want to clarify a little bit, to the extent that there were concerns raised about the inability to deal with stolen weapons. My understanding, which could be incorrect, but my understanding is that Missouri has laws against stealing firearms, and SEPA allows not only for the enforcement of firearms laws, but if you refer to section 1.480.4, it also specifies that law enforcement officials are permitted to insist on the enforcement of federal felonies as long as they are, as long as the federal law is substantially similar to those found in Chapter 570 or 571. So, again, in the hearing process last time around, those concerns by law enforcement were heard, and that's why 1.480 is written the way that it is, to make sure that you can assist with the enforcement of certain federal laws as long as there is a Missouri parallel. So with that, I'll take whatever questions you
Thank
guys
you.
have, but I wanted to make sure that you were clear on where everything stands.
Questions for the witness? Senator Washington.
I just have one quick question. You talked about not knowing where the Supreme Court stood on this.
So the Attorney General's office has, I believe, has asked the U.S. Supreme Court to review the case.
So the review that they did in 2023 and sustained the 8th District's order, are they trying to go against it? Or?
Okay, no. So the Supreme Court did not review the substance of the case. There was a request for the Supreme Court to intervene in the proceedings in the lower courts. That was not a ruling on the merits of the case. And so
so we think that even though they already said no once, that they're going to come back and get back into the case?
I think
Are you a lawyer, sir? I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be disrespectful.
Yes.
So we think that the court, which is heavily conservative, who said, I don't want to be bothered with this, just 17, 18 months ago, is going to change their mind?
So respectfully, you're not understanding what the Supreme Court did.
Don't do that, because then I'm going to yell at you, because I got the same law degree you got, bro.
Okay, yell
So
at
don't
me.
do
Let's
that.
talk.
Don't do that. Don't
Let's
do
talk.
that. My question to you is, what's going to be different to make the Supreme Court say, hey, I didn't want to be bothered with this 18 months ago, but now I'm going to do it now?
Okay, so as I think you're aware, there are different stages of litigation. And
I don't need you to go through all that. I know all that.
For the benefit
I
of
want
the
you to
rest of the
because you just told me I didn't understand something, and you know, as a lawyer, that's one thing we don't like people to say to us, because it's highly disrespectful. It's very disrespectful, and I know you know I'm a lawyer because you've been in here. Now, tell me, in your opinion, what's gonna make them change their mind to hear this case?
my opinion is you don't understand why they did what they did a year and a
Okay,
half
I'm done with
ago.
you.
Okay. For the benefit of the rest of the panel,
Just
what the Supreme Court did, they were asked to intervene on a procedural
Sir,
matter.
we're gonna
They
have to.
declined.
We're just gonna have to move on, and we will. If there are questions from the committee,
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Senator Shelton,
I'm
go
a little
ahead.
curious. Can you run? I'm not an attorney. Run me through the process, would you please?
Sure. So when a lower court makes a decision, a procedural decision, there's the opportunity to ask the Supreme Court to intervene and alter the way that the case is going to proceed in the lower courts. That's what was requested. And so the Supreme Court said, we're not going to intervene at this time. The Eighth Circuit proceeded to resolve the case on the merits. And once that decision was in place, the Attorney General's office has the opportunity to ask the Supreme Court, okay, now, will you address the substance of the case, not this procedural issue, the substance. And that's what the Attorney General's office has done. And the Supreme Court regularly decides that they're not going to intervene at one stage, and then they choose. So, for example, one of the criminal cases against President Trump, they were asked to intervene on a procedural issue. They said, no, we're not going to intervene at this point. And then they later took up the merits of the case. That was the immunity case.
Yep.
So this happens all the time at the Supreme Court. It's just, it was not the right time for them to address the merits. Now it is. And they may decide to, they may not. I don't know.
Got it.
We should find that out in about 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the
Sure,
explanation.
not a problem.
Further questions for the witness? Senator Weber, go
So
ahead.
you said we'll discover in 6 to 8 weeks.
I think we'll have a better idea. So right now what's going to happen is the Department of Justice is going to have an opportunity to respond to the Attorney General's request. One of the X factors in all of this is we've got a change in administration. And so John Sauer, who previously had argued in favor of SEPA, is now going to be the Solicitor General of the United States. And honestly, we don't know what position they're going to take. They may say, we would like the Supreme Court to take this case. They may say, we'd rather you just ask the Eighth Circuit to take another look.
So if there's going to be clarity in 6 to 8 weeks, would it not make sense to just hold everything for 6 to 8 weeks until we find out whether there's some clarity?
That's up to you guys. Like that's a political question, and I try not to delve into those. So it's up to you.
It's not up to me. It's up to
Well, it's up to the folks who
Senator,
cast the votes.
you're not in the House anymore. You'll find that you have a lot of authority over this process.
Oh,
but,
well then, all right.
yeah.
All right.
Maybe not this committee process, but in a process.
My
somewhere.
point is just that if we're going to get clarity in 6 to 8 weeks, maybe it's worth getting that clarity.
It's certainly a possibility.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anybody else here for informational purposes only? Seeing none, that'll conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 23. Senator Bratton, any closing thoughts?
No, thank you. Thank you for hearing the bill.
Thank you. I guess I should wrap up the committee officially. I make a motion that we adjourn. Do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it.